Commander Velthar stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the blue planet called Earth through the large window. His 6 arms moved across the control panels with practiced ease. He had been waiting for this moment for many years. Today, the Galactic Council would finally make contact with the humans. The Council had been watching Earth for decades. Most alien species thought humans were too primitive to join their great civilization. They had no energy shields, no plasma weapons, and their fastest ships moved like crawling insects compared to alien vessels. But the Council had rules about first contact, so they waited and watched. Velthar belonged to the Krathan Empire, a race of tall, gray-skinned warriors with multiple arms and black eyes. They were known throughout the galaxy as the finest soldiers. His people had conquered dozens of worlds and never lost a major battle. The idea that these primitive humans could teach anyone about warfare was laughable. "Commander," his officer called out, "we're receiving a distress signal from the human colony on Kepler 442b. Velthar's eyes narrowed. The colony was under attack by the Void Syndicate, a group of space pirates who raided peaceful settlements. This was perfect. The Council could swoop in, save the humans, and show them how advanced civilizations handled real threats. "What about the human defense forces?" Velthar asked. "They're mobilizing, sir. 5 ships heading to the colony." Velthar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. 5 ships? The pirates had 20 vessels armed with the latest stolen military technology. The humans would be destroyed in minutes, and then the Council could step in as heroes. "Excellent," he said. "We'll follow behind and clean up whatever mess remains. This will be a good lesson for the humans about their place in the galaxy." His ship, along with 3 other Council vessels, began moving toward the colony. They kept their distance, planning to arrive just after the humans were defeated. Velthar wanted to record everything for the Council's files. It would be useful to show other primitive species what happened when they tried to fight above their level. The human colony on Kepler 442b was small, with only 50,000 people. Most were farmers and miners who had left Earth to find a better life among the stars. They had basic defenses, but nothing that could stop a serious pirate attack. The 5 human ships were simple metal boxes with engines attached. They had no elegant curves like Krathan vessels. No energy barriers, just thick armor and projectile weapons that fired metal bullets instead of energy beams. To Velthar, they looked like flying garbage cans. "Sir, we're picking up human communications," his communications officer reported. "Put it on the speakers," Velthar ordered. He wanted to hear their panic and desperation. Instead, he heard a calm voice speaking clearly. "This is Captain Wu Jin of the Earth Defense Force. All ships, check your weapons and prepare for engagement. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves today. There are families down there counting on us." Another voice responded. "Lieutenant Kim Bo here. I've run the numbers, Captain. We're outnumbered 4-1 and they have better weapons." "Understood, Bo," Captain Jin replied. "But numbers don't tell the whole story. Stick to the plan." "We know what we have to do." Velthar frowned. Where was the fear? Where were the pleas for help? These humans were about to face impossible odds, yet they sounded almost calm. "Maybe they don't understand the situation," his tactical officer suggested. "Or maybe they're too stupid to be afraid," Velthar replied. But something in the human captain's voice bothered him. There was a quality he couldn't identify, something he had never heard in the voices of soldiers facing certain death. The pirate fleet appeared on the scanners, 20 dark ships bristling with weapons. Their leader, a Vorthak named Skeltar, was known for leaving no survivors. His ships immediately formed an attack formation and began moving toward the human vessels. "Human ships, this is Skeltar of the Void Syndicate." The pirate leader's voice crackled over the radio. "Surrender now and we might let some of your colonists live as slaves. Fight us and we'll kill everyone on the planet." Velthar expected the humans to surrender immediately. No sane species would fight such overwhelming odds with such inferior weapons. Captain Jin's response surprised him. "Skeltar, this is Captain Jin. We reject your offer. All human ships advance to attack position." "They're insane," Velthar's weapons officer whispered. The 5 human ships began moving toward the pirate fleet. They didn't try to run or call for help. They just flew straight at 20 enemy vessels like they had a chance of winning. "Stupid primitives," Velthar muttered, but he kept watching. Something about the way the human ships moved caught his attention. They weren't flying in the standard attack formations that most civilized species used. Instead, they seemed to be moving in a chaotic, almost random pattern. "Sir, should we move closer to observe?" his pilot asked. Yes, but stay hidden. I want to see how quickly this ends. As they moved closer, Velthar could see the pirate ships preparing their weapons. Energy cannons charged with deadly power, missile tubes loaded with explosive warheads. The humans would be vaporized in seconds. But as he watched, something strange happened. The human ships didn't slow down or try to avoid the incoming fire. Instead, they seemed to speed up, racing toward the pirate fleet like they couldn't wait to die. This is Captain Jin to all ships. The human commander's voice came over the radio again. Remember, every piece of information we gather helps the next wave. Every second we buy saves lives on the surface. Make it count. The next wave? Velthar looked at his scanners. There were only 5 human ships. What next wave was this primitive captain talking about? The first shots fired. Brilliant beams of energy cutting through space. Velthar expected to see human ships exploding immediately. Instead, he watched something impossible happen. The human ships took direct hits but kept flying. Their armor was damaged, their hulls were burning, but they didn't stop. One ship lost its main engine but continued moving on backup thrusters. Another had its bridge destroyed, but someone in engineering kept the ship flying. How are they still alive? His tactical officer asked in shock. Velthar had no answer. By all the laws of space combat, those ships should have been debris by now. Instead, they were getting closer to the pirate fleet, still firing their primitive weapons, still talking to each other in calm, professional voices. Bo, I need firing solutions on their command ship, Captain Jin said. His voice steady despite the explosions around him. Working on it, Captain. Their shields are rotating frequencies, but I'm seeing a pattern. A pattern? How could primitive humans analyze advanced shield technology in the middle of a battle? Velthar realized he was witnessing something he had never seen before. These humans weren't just dying bravely. They were learning, adapting, and somehow staying effective even as their ships fell apart around them. For the first time in his military career, Commander Velthar began to wonder if he had underestimated an enemy. These primitive humans were doing something impossible, and he couldn't understand how or why. The battle was just beginning, and already his assumptions about human warfare were starting to crack. The space battle unfolded before Velthar's eyes like nothing he had ever seen. The pirate ships fired again and again, their energy weapons lighting up the darkness. Each shot should have destroyed a human vessel completely. Instead, the human ships kept moving forward, taking damage that would cripple any other species' fleet. Target their engines, Skeltar roared over the pirate communications. Stop letting them get closer. But the humans weren't trying to get closer in any way that made sense to Velthar. Their flight patterns looked completely random. One ship would dive toward the pirates, take heavy fire, then suddenly turn away just before being destroyed. Another would circle around, exposing itself to enemy weapons for no clear reason. They're committing suicide, Velthar's weapons officer said. This isn't tactics. This is madness, yet somehow the madness was working. After 10 minutes of intense fighting, all 5 human ships were still functional, though barely. Their hulls were torn open, their weapons were damaged, and several were venting atmosphere into space. But they kept fighting. Captain Jin to Private Li Su, came a voice over the human radio. Your transport is hit bad. Can you still make the drop? Yes, sir, a young female voice replied. Velthar could hear alarms blaring in the background of her transmission.
Hull breach in Section C, but we're sealed up tight.
My squad is ready for boarding action. Boarding action? Velthar checked his scanners again. The human transport ship was badly damaged, its engines barely working. How could anyone survive inside it, let alone prepare for a boarding mission? Bo, what's the status on the pirate shields? Captain Jin asked. I've identified the rotation pattern, Captain, Lieutenant Kimbo replied. Her voice was calm and professional, as if she weren't in the middle of a deadly space battle. They cycle every 47 seconds. Window of opportunity lasts for 3 seconds each cycle. Perfect. You heard that? Confirmed, Captain, came another voice. This one was rougher, older, Sergeant Park Yoon. My Marines are locked and loaded. Just get us close enough. Velthar watched in confusion as the damaged human transport suddenly accelerated toward the largest pirate ship. Energy beams struck it repeatedly, tearing chunks of metal away. The ship should have exploded, but it kept flying. Its path was erratic, wobbling like a wounded bird, but it was definitely heading for the pirate vessel. Impossible, his tactical officer whispered. Their life support should have failed by now. The human transport ship slammed into the side of the pirate vessel. metal grinding against metal. Instead of bouncing off or exploding, the transport somehow attached itself to the larger ship's hull. Velthar could see figures in bulky suits cutting through the pirate ship's armor with primitive tools. "Sir, the humans are actually boarding the pirate ship," his communications officer reported in disbelief. On the scanner, Velthar could see the humans moving through the holes they had cut. They were using simple projectile weapons against pirates armed with energy rifles. It should have been a massacre, but somehow the humans were advancing deeper into the ship. How are they not dead? Velthar asked no one in particular. The answer came from the human radio chatter. "Here, we're inside. Their energy weapons are powerful but slow to recharge. We're using hit-and-run tactics, staying mobile." "Copy that, Sergeant." Private Sue's voice crackled through static. "My squad is moving to secure the engine room. We've lost atmosphere in our section, but we're still breathing." "Still breathing?" Velthar looked at the readings from the human transport. There was no atmosphere left in most of the ship. How were they surviving? "Sir," his science officer called out, "I'm detecting that the humans are using emergency oxygen supplies built into their armor. Very primitive but effective for short operations. Primitive but effective." Velthar was starting to hear those words a lot. The main space battle continued around the boarding action. The remaining 4 human ships were taking terrible damage, but they refused to retreat. Instead, they seemed to be coordinating with the boarding party, drawing pirate fire away from the ship being attacked. "All ships, this is Jin." The human captain's voice came through clearly despite the explosions around him. "Keep their attention on us. Give Yoon's team time to work." "Captain, we've lost main weapons," another voice reported. "Switching to backup systems." "Understood." "Bo, how are we doing on that shield analysis?" "Getting better data with each pass, Captain. The more they shoot at us, the more I learn about their systems. The more they shoot at us, the more I learn." Velthar felt something cold move through his chest. These humans weren't just surviving the impossible. They were learning from it. Every attack that should have killed them was giving them information about their enemies. "Sir, look at this," his tactical officer called out. "The human ships are deliberately exposing themselves to different types of weapons. It's like they're testing the pirate defenses." That was exactly what they were doing. Velthar watched as one human ship flew directly through a missile barrage, its armor taking multiple hits but its sensors recording everything. The information was immediately shared with the other ships, which began adjusting their flight patterns to avoid the most dangerous weapons. Meanwhile, inside the pirate ship, Sergeant Yoon's Marines were making progress that shouldn't have been possible. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting in a hostile environment, but they kept advancing. "Yoon to all units." The sergeant's voice was steady despite the sound of weapons fire in the background. "We've reached their main computer core. Bo, I'm uploading their shield frequencies to you now." "Received, Sergeant." "Processing the data. Captain, I can give you exact timing windows for their shield rotations." "Outstanding work, both of you. All ships, prepare for coordinated attack run." Velthar watched in amazement as the human ships suddenly changed their chaotic attack pattern to something much more organized. They moved in perfect timing with each other, attacking the pirate ships exactly when their shields were weakest. For the first time since the battle began, pirate ships started taking serious damage. "What's happening?" Skeltar screamed over the pirate radio. "How are they hitting us through our shields?" The answer was obvious to Velthar now, though it seemed impossible. The humans had sacrificed one of their ships and several Marines to get inside a pirate vessel and steal technical information. They had used that information to find weaknesses in the pirate defenses, and they had done it all while taking damage that should have killed them. "Sir, the pirates are starting to retreat," his weapons officer reported. "Retreat?" Velthar couldn't believe it. 20 ships are retreating from 5 damaged human vessels? But it was true. Several pirate ships were pulling back, their commanders apparently deciding that fighting humans was more dangerous than they had expected. "Yoon here," came the sergeant's voice, now sounding strained. "We've set charges in their engine room. All Marines, time to go." "So, get your people out of there," Captain Jin ordered. "Negative, Captain," Private Sue replied. Her voice was weak and Velthar could hear pain in it. "I'm hurt bad, and the charges need manual detonation. I'll stay and make sure they go off. Sue, that's an order. Get out of there." "Sorry, Captain. Some things are more important than orders. Tell my family I made it count." The explosion that followed lit up space like a small star. The pirate ship broke apart, its pieces spinning away into the darkness. 20 seconds later, the human transport exploded as well, taking Private Sue with it. Velthar stared at the expanding cloud of debris. A young human female had just sacrificed her life to destroy an enemy ship. She had done it calmly, professionally, without hesitation. She had made a tactical decision to die so that others could live. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "the remaining pirates are withdrawing from the system." Velthar looked at his scanners. It was true. 19 pirate ships were fleeing from 4 badly damaged human vessels. The humans had won an impossible victory through tactics that made no sense and courage that defied understanding. But as he watched the human ships regrouping, Velthar realized something that chilled him to his core. These humans hadn't just won by luck or accident. They had planned this. They had accepted from the beginning that some of them would die, and they had used those deaths as weapons. What kind of species turned sacrifice into strategy? What kind of soldiers fought better when they were dying? And what did it mean for the galaxy if these primitive humans could defeat advanced technology through sheer force of will? Commander Velthar had come here expecting to watch a quick slaughter. Instead, he had witnessed something that challenged everything he thought he knew about warfare, courage, and what it meant to be civilized. Velthar sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed the impossible. 4 heavily damaged human ships were chasing 19 retreating pirate vessels. The pirates had superior numbers, better weapons, and advanced technology, yet they were running away like frightened children. "Sir, we're receiving more human communications," his officer reported. "Put them through. I need to understand what's happening here." Captain Jin's voice came through the speakers, still calm despite the chaos around him. "All ships, damage report. Ship 2 here, Captain. We've lost main engines and half our weapons. Hull breaches on 3 decks, but we're still flying." Ship 3 reporting. "Bridge is gone, but engineering is running the show. We're down to back up everything, but we're not dead yet." Ship 4 here. "We took a direct hit to our weapon systems, but we rigged some backup guns. We're still in the fight, not dead yet." Still in the fight. These humans talked about devastating damage like it was a minor inconvenience. Velthar had seen military ships retreat after taking far less damage than what these humans had absorbed. "Bo, what's our tactical situation?" Captain Jin asked. "The pirates are regrouping at the edge of the system, Captain. I think they're trying to decide if they want to continue this fight. What about their technical capabilities? Did we learn enough from Sue's sacrifice?" There was a moment of silence on the channel, and Velthar could hear the pain in Lieutenant Bo's voice when she replied. "Yes, Captain. We know their shield rotations, their weapon recharge rates, and their communication frequencies. Sue got us everything we need. Then her sacrifice wasn't in vain. Prepare for the next phase." Velthar frowned. "Next phase? What could 4 damaged ships do against 19 enemy vessels?" The answer came as he watched the human ships change formation. Instead of staying together like a proper fleet, they spread out across a wide area. Each ship began moving in a different direction, making them harder to target as a group. "Sir, the humans are splitting up," his tactical officer reported. "That's suicide. The pirates will pick them off one by one." But that's not what happened. As the pirate ships moved to attack the separated human vessels, something strange occurred. The humans began communicating with each other constantly, sharing information about every pirate ship they encountered. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV. One human pilot reported. "Enemy vessel is using rapid-fire energy cannons. Recharge time is approximately 4 seconds. "Confirmed," another pilot replied. "I'm seeing the same pattern on my target. All ships be aware that these weapons have a brief cooldown period." Velthar watched as the humans used this information immediately. When pirate ships fired their energy cannons, the human pilots counted to 4, then attacked during the brief moment when the weapons were recharging. It was dangerous and required perfect timing, but it worked. "How are they calculating these things so quickly?" his science officer asked. "They're not using computers," Velthar realized with growing amazement. "They're doing it in their heads. Each pilot is learning from every encounter and sharing that knowledge with the others." The human ships moved like a pack of predators, each one testing different aspects of pirate defenses and reporting back to the group. When one ship discovered that a certain type of maneuver could confuse pirate targeting systems, all the human ships started using that maneuver. When another ship found a weak spot in pirate armor, everyone started targeting those spots. "Captain Jin to all ships." The human commander's voice came through clearly. I'm seeing patterns in their formation flying. They bunch up when they're confident, spread out when they're worried. Right now, they're bunched up. What does that tell us, Captain? One of his pilots asked. It tells us they still think they're going to win easily. Let's change their minds. What followed was unlike any space battle Velthar had ever witnessed. The 4 human ships began working together in ways that seemed to defy military logic. They took turns drawing enemy fire while the others attacked. They shared targeting data across vast distances. They even shared ammunition, with ships that had lost their weapons transferring their remaining missiles to ships that could still fire them. Ship 2 to Ship 4, I'm transferring my last torpedo to you. Make it count. Copy that, Ship 2, torpedo received. Targeting their command vessel. The coordination was perfect, but it was the human attitude that truly baffled Velthar. They treated their damaged condition not as a weakness, but as an advantage. Ships with destroyed bridges fought better because they had fewer systems to worry about. Ships with damaged engines became harder to track because they moved unpredictably. Sir, one of the human ships has lost all power except life support, his engineer reported. But instead of surrendering, they're using their emergency thrusters to ram enemy vessels. Velthar watched in shock as the powerless human ship drifted toward a pirate vessel, using tiny steering rockets to guide its course. The pirates tried to destroy it, but the human ship was already so damaged that additional hits barely mattered. It slammed into the pirate ship and detonated its remaining explosives, destroying both vessels. That pilot just committed suicide to take out one enemy ship, his weapons officer said in disbelief. No, Velthar corrected him, finally beginning to understand. That pilot made a tactical decision. His ship was already lost, so he turned it into a weapon. The humans aren't throwing their lives away. They're investing them. The battle continued and the impossible kept happening. The remaining 3 human ships fought with the fury of cornered animals, but there was nothing desperate about their tactics. Everything they did was calculated, planned, and executed with professional precision. Bo here, Captain. I'm tracking enemy ammunition expenditure. They're running low on the heavy weapons. Recommend we press the attack. Understood. All ships, they're weaker now than they were when this started. Time to finish this. The human ships launched their final assault, and Velthar saw something that shook him to his core. The pirates, despite still outnumbering the humans more than 5-1, began to panic. Their formation fell apart as ships tried to retreat individually. Some collided with each other in their haste to escape. Others simply fled without firing a shot. Sir, the pirate fleet is in full retreat, his tactical officer reported. They're leaving the system. Velthar stared at the scanner display. 3 heavily damaged human ships had defeated an entire pirate fleet through tactics that made no sense and courage that seemed impossible. But it wasn't just courage. It was something else. Something that his military training had never prepared him to understand. Captain Jin to Galactic Council vessel, came a transmission directed at Velthar's ship. I know you're out there watching. Thanks for the help. Thanks for the help? Velthar had done nothing but observe. How did the human captain even know he was there? Should we respond, sir? His communications officer asked. Velthar hesitated. First contact protocols were clear, but nothing in those protocols covered what to do when primitive aliens defeated advanced enemies using impossible tactics. This is Commander Velthar of the Galactic Council, he finally replied. How did you know we were here? Lucky guess, Captain Jin replied, and Velthar could hear amusement in the human's voice. Plus, Bo detected your engine signatures about an hour ago. We figured you were here to observe. Hope we put on a good show. A good show? These humans had just fought and won the most incredible space battle in galactic history, and their captain called it a show? Captain Jin, Velthar said carefully, your tactics are unlike anything in our military databases. How did you know they would work? There was a pause before Jin replied. Commander, we didn't know they would work. We just knew that giving up wasn't an option. When you're fighting for something more important than your own life, you find ways to win that nobody expects. Fighting for something more important than your own life. Velthar had heard similar words before, but always from species that were about to be conquered. He had never heard them from species that actually won. Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, I'm detecting more human ships approaching the system. Reinforcements? Velthar asked. No, sir. Medical ships and supply vessels. They're coming to rescue the survivors and repair the damage. As Velthar watched the rescue ships arrive, he realized that everything he thought he knew about warfare about courage, and about what made a species truly advanced had just been proven wrong by 4 primitive ships and their impossible crews. The humans had won not because they were stronger or smarter, but because they were willing to sacrifice everything for each other. And somehow that willingness had made them invincible. 2 days after the battle, Velthar found himself aboard a human medical ship orbiting the colony. He had requested permission to interview the survivors, claiming it was for official council records. The truth was more complicated. He needed to understand what he had witnessed, even if it meant questioning everything he believed about military science. The human medical ship was nothing like the sleek vessels of advanced civilizations. The corridors were narrow and cramped, the walls were bare metal, and everything seemed designed for function rather than comfort. Yet there was something about the ship that impressed him. Every person he passed moved with purpose, working together with quiet efficiency that reminded him of the battle he had witnessed. Commander Velthar? A young human female approached him. She wore a simple uniform with medical symbols on it. "I'm Dr. Han Na. Captain Jin is waiting for you in Medical Bay 3. Velthar followed her through the ship's corridors, noting how the humans he passed looked at him with curiosity rather than fear or hostility. These people had just fought an impossible battle, yet they seemed genuinely interested in meeting an alien observer. Captain Wu Jin was lying in a medical bed, his left arm in some kind of healing device and bandages covering burns on his face. Despite his injuries, he sat up when Velthar entered and offered what humans called a smile. "Commander Velthar," Jin said, extending his uninjured hand. "Welcome aboard. I hear you want to ask some questions about the battle." Velthar studied the human captain carefully. Jin looked tired and hurt, but there was no defeat in his eyes. If anything, he seemed satisfied, like someone who had completed a difficult but important task. "Captain Jin, I've been fighting battles for 40 years, Velthar began. "I've seen every known form of space combat. What you did should have been impossible." "Which part?" Jin asked. "The part where we survived or the part where we won?" "Both. Your ships were inferior, you were outnumbered 4-1, and you took damage that should have destroyed you in the first 5 minutes. By every military calculation, you should all be dead." Jin nodded thoughtfully. "You're right, Commander. By military calculations, we should be dead, but military calculations don't include everything." "What do you mean?" "They don't include why we fight. Your people, the Krathen, you fight to conquer and expand, right? That's what our intelligence reports say." Velthar felt uncomfortable discussing Krathen military philosophy with this primitive human. But he answered honestly, "Yes, we fight to prove our strength and claim new territory. And the pirates fight for profit. They attack because they want to steal and get rich." Jin shifted in his bed, wincing slightly from his injuries. "But we fight for different reasons, such as..." Jin pointed toward a small window in the medical bay. Through it, Velthar could see the human colony on the planet below. 50,000 people live down there, Commander. Families, children, people who left everything behind on Earth to build something new and better. "Many species have colonies," Velthar said. "That doesn't explain your tactics." "Maybe not, but it explains our motivation. When Lieutenant Bo was calculating shield rotations while her bridge was on fire, she wasn't thinking about military glory. She was thinking about her little sister who lives on that colony." Velthar felt something shift in his understanding. "Your sister lives on the colony?" A new voice answered him. "Yes, she does." Lieutenant Kim Bo entered the medical bay, walking carefully with the help of a support device. Her left leg was badly injured, but she moved with determination. "My sister Min is 7 years old. She loves to draw pictures of spaceships and wants to be a pilot when she grows up. When those pirates threatened to kill everyone on the planet," Bo continued, "I wasn't fighting an abstract tactical problem. I was fighting to make sure Min gets to grow up and become that pilot." Velthar stared at the young human female. She had performed mathematical calculations in her head that impressed his own computers, all while her ship was being destroyed around her. And she had done it while thinking about a child's dream of flying spaceships. "Commander," Jin said quietly, "you asked about our tactics. The truth is, most of our tactics come from desperation. When you're willing to die to protect something, you find ways to fight that people who only care about winning can't imagine. But the coordination, the way you shared information instantly, the perfect timing, that comes from trust," another voice said. Sergeant Park Yoon entered the room. moving slowly but steadily despite the bandages covering most of her body. When you know that everyone around you is willing to die for the same cause, you trust them completely. And when you trust people completely, you can do things together that seem impossible. Velthar looked at the three humans. All were injured, all had come close to death, yet they spoke about their experience with quiet pride rather than trauma. "Sergeant Yoon," he said, "you led the boarding mission that captured enemy intelligence. Your squad was outnumbered and outgunned. How did you know they would follow you into such danger?" Yoon smiled, an expression that looked strange on her scarred face. "I didn't have to convince them, Commander. When we were preparing for the mission, Private Sue told me that her parents run a small farm on the colony. She said if the pirates won, her family would be killed or enslaved. She volunteered for the most dangerous part of the mission without hesitation. Private Sue died in that mission," Velthar said softly. "Yes, she did, and because she died, we got the intelligence we needed to save the colony. Sue knew she probably wouldn't survive, but she also knew that her sacrifice would protect 50,000 people, including her own family. She made that calculation and chose to die? She made that calculation and chose to make her life count for something," Jin corrected. "That's the difference, Commander. We don't choose to die. We choose to live for something so important that we're willing to die for it if necessary." Velthar felt his worldview cracking. In Krathan society, soldiers fought for honor and advancement. Death in battle was seen as failure, something to be avoided. The idea of deliberately sacrificing one's life for others was almost incomprehensible. "But how do you function as a military unit when everyone is prepared to die?" he asked. Bo answered him. "Because everyone is prepared to die, nobody has to. When you know that every person around you will sacrifice everything to keep you alive, you fight harder to keep them alive too. It makes us stronger, not weaker." During the battle, Yoon added, "When my ship was hit and we lost life support, I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of letting down the people counting on me. That fear made me think faster and fight harder than I ever had before." Velthar sat in silence for several minutes, processing what he had heard. These humans had turned military science upside down. They had made weakness into strength, desperation into strategy, and sacrifice into victory. "Commander," Jin said gently, "you look troubled. Is something wrong?" "Everything I know about warfare says that what you did was impossible," Velthar admitted. "But I saw it happen. I recorded it, and now I have to report back to the Galactic Council and try to explain how 3 primitive ships defeated an entire pirate fleet." 3 ships and the people who crewed them," Bo corrected. "The ships were just metal and engines. The people made the difference." "Your report will probably say that humans fight differently," Yun said, "but the real truth is that we fight for different reasons. And when you're fighting for the right reasons, you can accomplish things that seem impossible." As Velthar prepared to leave the medical bay, Jin called out to him, "Commander, one more thing. You keep calling us primitive, but maybe being advanced isn't about having the best technology. Maybe it's about having the best reasons to use that technology." Walking back through the corridors of the human medical ship, Velthar realized that his report to the Galactic Council would be unlike anything they had ever received. He would have to tell them that the most primitive species they had encountered was also the most dangerous, not because of their weapons but because of their hearts. And somewhere deep in his own heart, he was beginning to understand that the humans might be right about what it truly meant to be advanced. 3 weeks after returning to the Galactic Council headquarters on Zentara Prime, Velthar stood before the High Assembly, holding a data pad that contained his official report. The massive chamber held representatives from 200 different species, all waiting to hear about humanity's first combat performance. Most expected a short report about primitive humans being quickly defeated by superior pirate technology. Instead, Velthar was about to deliver findings that would change how the galaxy thought about warfare itself. "Honored counselors," Velthar began, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "The human defense of Colony Kepler 442b resulted in complete victory for human forces. The pirate fleet was defeated with minimal human losses." Immediate chatter filled the chamber. Several counselors stood up, clearly confused by this impossible statement. Council leader Zontara, a massive reptilian being from the Hegemony Corps, raised one clawed hand for silence. "Commander Velthar, please clarify. Are you saying that 5 primitive human vessels defeated 20 advanced pirate ships? That is correct, Council Leader. Moreover, they did so using tactics that challenge our fundamental understanding of space combat. Impossible, declared Councillor Kethvar of the Mechanical Collective. Our combat simulations show humans have a 0% chance of victory against such odds. With respect, Councillor, your simulations are based on traditional combat models. Humans do not fight traditionally. Velthar activated a holographic display showing the battle. They fight with a level of coordination and sacrifice that our models cannot calculate. The assembly watched in stunned silence as the hologram showed human ships deliberately exposing themselves to enemy fire, sharing critical information even as they were being destroyed, and continuing to fight with damage that should have incapacitated any known species. This is madness, not tactics, Councillor Velthon of the Crystal Dominion observed. They're throwing their lives away for no strategic gain. No, Councillor, Veltar replied firmly. They're investing their lives for maximum strategic gain. Every action served a purpose, even the deaths. Especially the deaths. He highlighted the part of the battle where Private Sue had sacrificed herself to destroy the pirate ship and obtain crucial intelligence. This young human could have escaped. Instead, she chose to die so that her tactical data would save the colony. Her death led directly to the enemy's defeat. Barbaric, muttered Councillor Hivemind Cluster 7 of the Neural Network. Civilized species preserve individual life above all else. And that, Veltar said quietly, may be why civilized species lose to humans. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Several councillors demanded that Velthar clarify his statement. Others insisted that he had been affected by some kind of human psychological weapon. Council leader Zontara called for order. Commander, you're suggesting that our military philosophy is flawed. I'm suggesting that our military philosophy is incomplete. We focus on preserving our own forces and destroying enemy forces. Humans focus on accomplishing the mission, regardless of cost to themselves. Velthar changed the holographic display to show the human medical ship where he had interviewed the survivors. I spoke with the human soldiers after the battle. They showed no regret for their losses, no trauma from their near-death experiences. They were satisfied because they had protected their colony. Satisfaction with death is a sign of mental illness, Councillor MedTech Advisor Prime stated. These humans are clearly psychologically damaged, are they? Velthar challenged. Private Sue died to save 50,000 colonists, including her own family. Lieutenant Bo risked her life to calculate enemy shield patterns while her ship burned around her. Captain Jin coordinated a perfect battle while suffering severe injuries. Which part of this indicates mental illness? He paused, looking around the chamber at the alien faces staring back at him. Or perhaps the question is, which part indicates mental health that we don't understand? The assembly fell silent. This was not the kind of question usually discussed in military briefings. Commander, Council Leader Zontara said carefully. What are you recommending? Velthar straightened his shoulders. I recommend that humanity be granted full council membership immediately. More importantly, I recommend that we request human assistance in developing new combat doctrines. You want primitives to teach us about warfare? Councillor Kethvar's mechanical voice was filled with disbelief. I want survivors to teach us about survival. Councillors, the humans didn't win because they had better technology. They won because they had better reasons to fight. And when the stakes are high enough, good reasons matter more than good weapons. Velthar activated another part of his report, showing psychological profiles of the human soldiers. These people aren't warriors in the way we understand the term. Captain Jin was a cargo pilot before the war. Lieutenant Bo was a mathematics teacher. Sergeant Yoon ran a small business. Private Sue was studying agriculture. Then how did they become such effective fighters? Asked Councillor Wisetree that speaks of the plant consciousness. They didn't become fighters, Councillor. They became protectors. There's a difference. Fighters compete for victory. Protectors sacrifice for others. And apparently protectors are much more dangerous than fighters. The holographic display changed to show tactical analysis of the human battle performance. Look at these coordination patterns. No advanced species achieves this level of unit cohesion without years of training. The humans did it instinctively because they trusted each other completely. Trust can be programmed, Councillor Hivemind Cluster 7 pointed out. Can it? Can you program someone to willingly die for strangers? Can you create artificial love for people you've never met? Because that's what drove human performance in this battle. Velthar closed his datapad and looked directly at the council leader. Honored counselors, I've spent 40 years studying warfare. I thought I understood courage, sacrifice, and tactical effectiveness. I was wrong. The humans have shown me that there are forms of strength that our civilization has never developed. What kind of strength? Council leader Zontara asked. The strength to care more about others than yourself. The strength to see death as acceptable if it serves a greater purpose. The strength to fight not for victory but for love. The word love hung in the air like something alien and dangerous. Most council species considered love a primitive emotion that interfered with logical decision-making. Commander, Counselor Velthon said slowly, are you suggesting that emotional attachment makes humans more effective soldiers? I'm suggesting that emotional attachment makes humans more effective at everything. When Private Sue died to protect her family and 50,000 strangers, she wasn't following military doctrine. She was following her heart. And her heart led her to make the tactically perfect decision. Velthar looked around the chamber one final time. Counselors, we've spent thousands of years developing advanced technology and sophisticated tactics. We've created armies that can conquer planets and fleets that can control star systems. But we've never created soldiers who would willingly die for people they've never met. And you believe this makes humans superior to us? Council leader Zontara asked. I believe this makes humans necessary for us, because someday we're going to face an enemy that can't be defeated with superior technology or numbers. And when that day comes, we're going to need allies who know how to win battles that can't be won. The chamber fell completely silent. In that silence, Velthar realized that his own worldview had been completely transformed. 3 weeks ago, he had been a proud Krathan warrior who believed in the superiority of advanced civilization. Now he was something else entirely. Now, he was someone who understood that the most primitive species in the galaxy might also be the most evolved, in ways that really mattered. The vote on Human Council membership would take place the following day. But Velthar already knew the outcome. The galaxy had just learned that there were more important things than being advanced. Sometimes being human was enough.